Hey guys, one of the hardest things to do as a parent is to see your kids struggle mentally with their sports performances. For instance, we've all seen it. I've seen it as a father too. Like kind of the meltdowns on the court that they may have, or on their field of play where they just seem kind of out of it after a mistake, or they just don't seem to have the energy that day, or whatever it may be. It can be really frustrating as a parent. And one of the things that I do as a mental performance coach, especially for my young athletes, is I make sure that the parents are involved every step of that way. So there's no conflicting information, much like the article you just read. Um, there can really be some conflict when you talk about what a mental performance coach is telling the young athlete versus what the parent oftentimes is telling the young athlete. And there's a different set of expectations and things like that. So what I want to do today is just share a few really quick tips, that if you are not well versed on the mental performance game, which a lot of parents and athletes for that matter are not, here's a couple of things that you can kind of take with you when it does come to that, when it does come to seeing your kids struggle maybe with mental performance. And like I said, not being as aggressive as they should, maybe crumbling after mistakes, or feeling a lot of anxiety and things like that. All the things that mental performance is all about with young athletes. And here's a few things you can take with you and hopefully work with your young athlete when you may see things like that, and when you may experience some things like that with them. So the first thing is, you always want to encourage your young athlete to stay present, to stay in the moment. And why that is so important is because it's oftentimes the case where young athletes start to fall apart mentally out there on their field of play is when they're thinking about the past. They're thinking about something that happened in their past. It could have just been the last play when they made a mistake. They could be having a hangover from the last game they played where they were making a bunch of mistakes, and so they're far more timid and they're far more conservative out there. But what is important for young athletes to know is that they stay in the present moment, that they stay within their exact location and the exact moment of where they are and where their feet are. I oftentimes share with my athletes, be where your feet are. That's all that matters. The last play doesn't matter. The next play doesn't matter. What matters right now is where your feet are. And that oftentimes can help take away the anxiety and remove kind of the pressure of, I've got to do better, I've got to do better the next play, whatever it may be, because they're in the moment and all that matters is that moment at that time. Another one to really share and really stress with your young athlete, especially, middle school, grade school, high school, is that improvement is the goal. Daily improvement, to be better than you were yesterday. We oftentimes get so caught up in the outcome of particular games, or the score, or how we just did in that last game. We really want to focus on the process of improving, the process of getting better. And we are not concerned with the outcome. How many points did you score? How many tackles did you score? How many hits did you get? Whatever it may be, we really want to focus on just the process of improvement, and that really eliminates, the anxiety buildup and like gotta win, gotta score, gotta hit. It really just, hey, I just gotta get better. And that is a huge thing to share with your young athletes of, hey, this isn't a sprint. This is a long marathon that we're on. And we're going to use this as just a chance to get better. And even when you struggle, remember, we're just getting better. So you got to go be you got to get your mind in a position where you're thinking, okay, I struggled a little bit today, but where did I get better? What can I get better? And let's go put that into practice tomorrow. And the last thing is, you always want to encourage. It can be really hard. It can be really frustrating. I get it, especially when you may see that your child is lacking out there, or they're not living up to their potential that you really can see them in, or they even see in themselves. However, the fact of, as a parent, just continuing to be positive with them, continue to encourage them. After bad games, do a lot more of asking questions to them instead of offering them advice. Ask them questions about, hey, we struggled a little bit today out there, and that's okay, but what did we learn? What are some of the things that we'll do different next time? How are we going to improve upon that performance? Things like that will help the child and help the young athlete actually kind of figure this thing out themselves, rather than, you need to not get so upset after mistakes. You need to shoot it, you need to be more aggressive, things like that. You can ask kind of leading questions, if you will, and let them figure out that process. And one of the excuse me, the really key things I find in that is oftentimes comparing poor performances of, say, professional athletes that they might like. So for basketball, for instance, you'll see, a guy like Steph Curry, one game he'll go 5 for 20, and the next game he'll go 15 for 16 from the floor. And a lot of times it's because in a case like that at the highest level, those guys are so locked into every moment that if they were to catch an open shot in the corner, they're going to shoot it every single time, whether they're 20 for 20 or 0 for 20, because that's just in the rhythm, and that's what they would do in that moment every single time. And that's one of those things I really encourage. And when you do that comparison, of course, you're not comparing your young athlete to a Hall of Fame, pro. But what you are doing is you're giving them something tangible to relate it to. So you can find things like, hey, remember when so-and-so had that really bad game, and how they approached it the next time. They came out and had a great game because they realize they stay in the moment, they stay confident, they stay, they realize that one bad game or one bad instance or even a series of bad games doesn't define their season. It doesn't define who they are as an athlete. They come back and believe in themselves and continue to do that. So if you take those tips and you start to implement them into a lot of the conversations you have, if you have some mental performance conversations with your child, determining on their field of play and the sport that they participate in, these are some tips that you can take really far. And the best thing about these, as I do with a lot of my athletes, is I really allow them the ability to process through this thought themselves. They don't need someone, parent, coach, whoever it may be, to tell them what to do, right? They've got enough of that already within themselves, and they've got enough pressure on themselves already. So it's one of those things where they really just need to focus on the process of getting better and improving and overcoming mistakes by staying in the present moment. And when you ask those questions of, hey, what can we do better next time? Hey, I noticed that, after you missed a couple shots in a row, you didn't shoot again. Why was that? And they oftentimes would explain to you, well, I missed my first two and I just didn't want to. Well, that means what they're doing is the next time they catch the ball wide open, or whenever a shot potential may come up for them, they're thinking about the previous plays, and that's what we want to get away from. And you can just kindly remind them, like, hey, remember, we want to stay in the present moment. So what's happened in the shots before or the game before, whatever it may be, that doesn't matter anymore. And we're really focused just on that moment. So by asking those questions, you can definitely kind of lead a very healthy dialogue. And I can tell you from experience, healthy dialogue between your own student athlete to parent relationship is so beyond important. And coaching my own kids, as well as thousands of others, it is just a huge benefit, especially when dealing with your own. Instead of lighting them up or telling them what they need to do, just asking some leading questions that can get them to identify, and always encourage and always let them know you're proud of them, and always let them know that you're you just love watching them participate and grow. And that really goes a long way when it comes to dealing with young athletes' mental health and mental performance. I hope this serves you well. As always, I'm available at any time for any questions or any need you or your athlete may have, and I appreciate you watching this video.